Donald Trump got some bad news from an appeals court yesterday in a 3-0 ruling. By the way, all three of the judges were Democrat appointees. But in a 3-0 ruling, they let stand the penalty that he's supposed to pay to E. Jean Carroll over that incident that happened, 30 years ago in a Bergdorf Goodman, allegedly, in New York. Now, E. Jean Carroll is going on a little bit of a publicity blitz, and during a podcast interview, she revealed that the entire trial against Donald Trump over that incident was pure theater. I mean, with wardrobe, with hair, with makeup, scripted. The whole thing was theater. Just wait till you see her admit it. I mean, comes right out of her own mouth. We'll show it to you in a second, and we're going to tell you some details about who E. Jean Carroll is and what this case is really, really all about. But first, here's the graphic. Trump loses bid to overturn $83.3 million judgment in E. Jean Carroll defamation case, brought to you by CNBC. Now, you remember this. This was a case where E. Jean Carroll claimed President Trump had raped her in a dressing room at a Bergdorf Goodman department store in New York City back in the 90s. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, well, how could they possibly bring that case against Donald Trump? Isn't there a statute of limitations? And you'd be right. But they didn't actually bring a criminal case against him. Instead, E. Jean Carroll sued Donald Trump for defamation. And they modified the law for a small window of time to allow the defamation case to go forward, even though it was 30 years old, this incident. Now, I'll get into the details in a second, but here's what's most important about this appeals decision, because it's going to go to the Supreme Court probably, okay? But let me just be clear. E. Jean Carroll presented her story to the jury. And one of the charges against Donald Trump was, in fact, for raping E. Jean Carroll. And the jury said no. We don't see the evidence that Donald Trump is guilty of that. They did not believe E. Jean Carroll's account of that day, claiming that President Trump had done that to her. Okay, and the appeals court upheld that. All right? Well, let me just be clear, because you might be confused already, but this is the fact. The jury did not affirm that E. Jean Carroll had proven that Donald Trump had raped her. But they awarded her $83 million because they determined that Donald Trump had defamed her. And what was the defamation? Donald Trump called her a liar. I'm not kidding. This never gets the coverage that it deserves to get. But just factor it out in your brain for a second. E. Jean Carroll accuses Donald Trump of this crime. Donald Trump says it didn't happen. She's lying. She says that's defamation. The jury says, yeah, we agree with him. You haven't proven that he did that to you, but we're going to give you $83 million anyway for defamation. Why isn't the jury guilty of defamation? They're basically saying the same thing. And that's the E. Jean Carroll suit. By the way, one of the beautiful things about this lawsuit is that it gets people in the media and in politics to falsely accuse Donald Trump of being convicted for raping E. Jean Carroll or sexual assault or something. And that's just not true. George Stephanopoulos on ABC's This Week during the presidential campaign, March of 2024, repeated it over and over and over and over again. And that resulted in a $16 million defamation settlement between ABC News' Stephanopoulos and Donald Trump because, well, it was a lie. That said, E. Jean Carroll yesterday appeared on Tim Miller's Bulwark podcast. And take a look at this revelation about what E. Jean Carroll did to win the day in court.
That has to be pretty dispiriting. But then you're like, well, I got to be hotter to win this case.
Yeah, I got to be fuckable is the word. So what we did is we looked. I had a talk show, a TV talk show in 1996. I went through that, some of the shows, took screenshots of my hair cut in a bob, and we did then I found the hairdresser and the makeup person who made me look like that in 1996. She came every day to trial, did my hair and makeup exactly like it was in 1996. I wore the exact same clothes I wore in 1996, the exact clothes.
Yeah, they're back. It's back in trend.
Yeah. Oh, I don't have a book here, but the thing I'm wearing on the cover, I bought it at Bergdorf's in 1993. So
Wow.
that's the kind of, and I didn't look like I looked in 96, but I looked like somebody who could have looked like somebody in 96, and it was enough. It was enough. So it was a trick.
This trick, that doesn't make you annoyed? That doesn't, your feminist juices don't start flowing over that?
I love that that's Tim Miller's big concern here, is that as a feminist, doesn't it bother you that you have to look a certain way to win the day with the jury? How did she put it? That I had to look f***able? Wow, what kind of magicians did they use for that one? So they brought in hair, they brought in makeup, they brought in wardrobe. She claims she still got an outfit from over 30 years ago. Who keeps clothes for over 30 years? Especially clothes that would remind you of such a traumatic, horrible experience, right? Yeah, more on that in a second. But just so you know, before the trial, E. Jean Carroll did look very different. She looked like that. So, I mean, I guess it was a good strategy. Did you hear her talking about how she had a talk show in the 90s and they used what she looked like back then to sort of capture her appearance? Yeah. Our friend Maze over on the X platform, you should subscribe to his channel. I do. Support what he does. He found some video footage of the E. Jean Carroll show back in the mid-90s. In fact, this segment that you're about to see took place either right before or right after the alleged sexual assault took place. You tell me if this sounds like a victim.
Well, I'm calling because I'm a 49-year-old single woman who's never been married. I consider myself well educated, but at the same time, I find it difficult to meet gentlemen who are of the caliber I want to date.
Oh, Jody, nothing in the whole world is easier. The thing is, you gotta just leave your house, Jody, and just get out there. The best place to meet men is on the street. You just see somebody cool coming toward you, stop him. Drop your purse, drop your change, hand him a beer, hand him a $5 bill. If you see somebody who say, my name is such and such, that's how you do it. The street is the #1 place to meet a guy.
Ladies, don't follow this person's advice. I promise you, as a father of 2 daughters, I would never, ever, ever recommend this kind of behavior. What the hell is she talking about? Again, I want to understand, because, see, sadly, we can't pinpoint the date in which this alleged $83.3 million occurred, because the key witness, the victim, she doesn't know the date. She doesn't even know the year that it was supposed to have taken place. So for all we know, this moment that you just saw could have happened after what she claims happened at Bergdorf Goodman. So again, someone's calling for advice about meeting men.
Nothing in the whole world is easier. The thing is, you gotta just leave your house, Jody, and just get out there. The best place to meet men is on the street. You just see somebody cool coming toward you, stop him. Drop your purse, drop your change, hand him a beer, hand him a $5 bill. If you see somebody who say, my name is such and such, that's how you do it.
$83 million. $83 million. How did this happen? Well, it's amazing that more people don't know about this either. You see, a new law was enacted. It was paid for by Reid Hoffman. He's a gajillionaire Democrat, currently funding the Abigail Spanberger campaign in Virginia for governor. So keep an eye on that. Reid Hoffman paid money to get the legislature and the attorney general and the governor to change a law that would allow something that normally would be past the statute of limitations to come up for a civil trial. Survivors of sexual assault and advocates helped pass the Adult Survivors Act in New York that was instrumental to Carroll's civil case. It makes it sound like if you had been brutally sexually assaulted when you were a child, you can now, as an adult and survivor, bring up these charges. But of course, that's not the case with E. Jean Carroll. She was an adult. You just saw what she looked like. They hope more people will file claims under the law, an option that expires in 6 months. Did you catch that? This is a contemporaneous headline from the year that the lawsuit was filed. It expired in 12 months total. That's right. Our friend Apple Lamps over there on X lays it out. The only reason E. Jean Carroll was allowed to file charges against Trump was because Democrat billionaires funded her effort to get a 1-year temporary law added just so she could. She was the first person in the state to file under the new temporary law. 12 months later, the law expired. In fact, we don't even know if anyone else filed a suit under this law. It was designed for one purpose and one purpose only, and it worked. Gotta hand it to him. It certainly worked. It's kind of surprising that nobody used that opportunity to file a suit against Bill Clinton, isn't it? One other thing about the E. Jean Carroll story that, by the way, the jury was never allowed to learn any of this that I've just showed you. The jury was not allowed to learn about the nature of the law and how it was created. They weren't allowed to see that video of E. Jean Carroll back in the 90s to see what her state of mind was at the time with regard to men and women. They weren't allowed to hear any of this that Glenn Beck revealed on Megyn Kelly's show yesterday.
This case was so unbelievably weak in the first place. She has her credibility is nowhere to be found. She is accused a babysitter's boyfriend, a dentist, a camp counselor, an unnamed college date, an unnamed boss, and CBS chief Les Moonves of either sexually assaulting or raping her in the past. I mean, wow.
She's
That's
quite the target.
An awful lot of people. She's
don't be alone in a room with E. Jean Carroll if you were a man.
Those were all accusations of sexual assault or rape that E. Jean Carroll has made against all of those individuals that Glenn Beck just mentioned, and none of that was revealed to the jury in the trial. One other thing that wasn't revealed to the jury in the trial, she first came out with her accusations just 3 days after Donald Trump announced that he was running for re-election in the 2020 presidential election. And when she announced it, she was with Anderson Cooper on set and discussed the nature of this horrific crime that has haunted her for 3 decades in a very peculiar way.
Victim.
You don't feel like a victim?
I was not thrown on the ground and ravished, which the word rape carries so many sexual connotations. This was not sexual. It hurt. It just,
Well, I think most people think of rape as it is a violent assault. It is not.
I think most people think of rape as being sexy.
Let's take a short break.
Think of the fantasies.
We're just going to take a quick break. If you can stick around, we'll talk more on the other side.
You're fascinating to talk to.
Seems totally stable to me. Completely credible. Jury never got to see any of that. Have you seen any of this? Have you known any? Let us know in the comments down below. I would love to know if all of this that I just laid out for you about E. Jean Carroll in that case, if it is new to you, about the nature of the law and the statute of limitations, the fact that that law expired after 12 months, which is, have you ever heard of a law that does that? How peculiar is that? The fact that it was funded by Democrat donors to get put on the book so that E. Jean Carroll could do that. The fact that E. Jean Carroll back in the 90s talked about male-female relationships in such an odd and bizarre, unsafe way, that E. Jean Carroll is admitting now that she used theatrical tricks to look, in her words, fuckable in front of the jury, and that she flirted with very gay Anderson Cooper and suggested that is really sexy. Did you know any of this? And if not, why not? I think you know why not. I think you know.